In this episode, I'll answer the question, how do we regain the balance when vice has taken over our being to the subjection of spirit, consciousness, virtue, doing what we know is right? The alchemical formula is typically a process which occurs naturally in everything. Everything in existence being composed of the holographic and fractal components of the philosophical essentials salt, sulfur, and mercury, or body, soul, and spirit. The first stage of the alchemical process always involves heat. Yet it is a gentle heat that gradually increases in intensity. This process of incineration and calcination was called the blackening. What this means at a psychological or behavioral level is the application of a gentle discipline, or at least awareness, as fire or light can be interpreted, at least on one level in many alchemical initiatic traditions such as Freemasonry, for example, as alluding to conscious awareness. This scrutiny must inform a kind of restriction, impose a kind of discipline, a training of old behaviors or modes of thought into new ones. This is reinforced by the fact that once we become aware of something, we can no longer truly be unaware of it ever again. The process of taking old desires, using that energy, and focusing it towards more productive higher ends is called sublimation. But if we start out of the gate too hot, and the heat is overwhelming, we risk botching the process by rushing it. The steady application of this heat, the underlying desire to change, which motivates our self-scrutiny, examination, and gradual behavioral inhibitions and corrections, will eventually transform us by a kind of incineration of the hardened mass of our ingrained behaviors. Truly, in order to recreate or renovate something, it must be broken apart into a reworkable form. Its constituent elements must be made available for reorganization. Yet, what is the fire? It is the motive energy which moves us to be inspired by and guided towards the truth and the good. Not necessarily the purely mundane human conception of good, but rather in the good as conceived as being the highest order and underlying intelligence of creation. This is why the alchemists, Rosicrucians, and Hermetists' primary study was that of nature. Within nature, the soul of the universe enacted a motive force, which organized itself into self-generating, self-sustaining, and self-perpetuating laws. Relationships which very clearly indicate an indwelling or underlying order. And order is the evidence of intelligence of some kind. The next stages are the whitening and the reddening, which involve sublimation and coagulation, respectively, as their primary operations. Sublimation and conjunction, rather than coagulation, conjunction being the reunification of purified but as yet unperfected substances, represents a kind of purification and consecration, which typically must occur several times before the final stage of exaltation and coagulation can occur. Coagulation is recombination in a perfected form and is the final stage of alchemy. Morality is explicitly prerequisite in all forms and in every legitimate branch of Western esotericism. I'm not making this up. This is documented historically. We find it perhaps most clearly stated in a modern context in Freemasonry, where the entered apprentice upon reception into Masonry is told, quote, "Freemasonry is a beautiful system of morality veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols." Rectitude of conduct is the primary admonition of the entire Blue Lodge system of initiation. Specific tools and symbols are chosen and meant to convey by analogy those laws not observable, those occult laws, by typical physical means, but which are as determined and immutable as every physical law. The laws which govern behavior, cause and effect, karma, morality by any other name. It is in the Platonic tradition as well, perhaps the seed of the entire trajectory of Western esoteric traditions as they have come down to us in the modern day, which averred that it was in living a life devoted to the good, capital G, the virtuous life, that we have hope of the immortality of the soul. This is true initiation. Not merely on a psychological level, however. These have energetic and spiritual consequences as well. It is the first stage of the continual operations which nature is enacting at all times, never ceasing, And as initiates, we join in our own beginning, as the word initiation implies. We direct our will, our focus, our intention to this end of spiritual evolution. Spiritual evolution is moral evolution. Yet here we come to perhaps the defining attribute of an initiate and of an alchemist. Someone once said, the major difference between an alchemist and a chemist is that the alchemist prays. The alchemists ask their highest conception of deity to guide and assist in their work. This is the sine qua non of the Western esoteric traditions: prayer, invocation of the highest. We turn to Freemasonry once more for the final word. No man should enter into any great or important undertaking without first invoking the blessings of deity. If you've enjoyed this episode, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the Arcanvm Patreon or making a one-time donation, a link to which is provided in the About section below, to help me continue to produce free, rigorously researched, and practiced material like this. Thanks for watching. In Luke's.